This bonus episode is sponsored by Toddle. Toddle is an all-in-one teaching and learning platform used by over 40,000 educators around the world. This past March 3rd and 4th, Toddle hosted the largest virtual gathering for school leaders across the globe with 5,000 plus school leaders in attendance. Today I have the wonderful opportunity to speak to Danny Bauer about his fantastic masterclass presentation on building leadership momentum, on his new book, and how to become a Ruckus Maker. Welcome back, everyone, to Aspire to Lead, where we will be discussing the visions, inspirations, and experiences from top educational leaders. My name is Joshua Stamper, and you can connect with me on Twitter or on Instagram at Joshua_Stamper. All right, Aspire leaders, I wanted to jump on real quick on the 5th anniversary of the Aspire to Lead podcast with one of my favorite guests. I have the great pleasure of interviewing my friend, amazing leader,
Joshua Stamper.
Podcaster, author, and the head Ruckus Maker, Danny Bauer. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. Great to be here. 5 years. I didn't realize that. Time really flies. So congrats on that. That's a huge accomplishment. They call it pod fade or something. I think the majority of podcasts, right? You probably know, but what is it? Like within 10 episodes, I don't even think they get to 12. Like
actually,
the majority
less.
of people are gone.
Yeah.
Poof.
It's less. It's
Suckers.
like 6 episodes, man. I think folks, have this idea that it's just going to be super easy to jump on a microphone, and there's as you know, there's a lot of other components to a podcast, and
it's easy for us.
But it's a lot of work, right? I mean, I was trying to reflect today.
There's work.
I was reflecting today, and 5 years has gone by fast. But if you think about the hours and the amount of time that you put into a project like this, it's a lot.
You'll never get those hours back. Ever.
No, but I have made some fantastic friendships and relationships with phenomenal leaders like yourself. And it has been a true honor to have you on the podcast multiple times. So for the listeners, if you haven't heard Danny before, definitely check out some of the episodes prior to. I just had him on not too long ago on the failure files as he spoke about communication with a teacher and maybe some missteps that occurred in that situation. And I love talking to Danny and learning from him. So we're going to learn a little bit about his Toddle presentation as he did a masterclass not too long ago, and then also talk about his brand new book. You're doing some phenomenal things, man. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing, because everyone that's listening can still get access to the recordings to the Toddle School Leaders Bootcamp. So can you just give maybe just a little synopsis of your masterclass and what they could gain from that recording?
I'm going to give you my approach. And I think that's valuable for the listener because it's an interesting approach you might want to use with your faculty. And the approach was this. Here's, let's say, 10 topics. What would serve you today? And we, there was some, I don't even remember the tool, but there was some sort of like app, right, where people could vote and do a poll in real time. And they told me, this is what we need in this moment. And so I over-prepared on a variety of topics, right? From building relationships to focusing and buffering yourself from distractions, how to stimulate growth within your staff, building relationships with family. Those are just a few examples. And they voted and basically told me how we would start and how we would end. And we got through as many as we could. I would say that the audience was pretty impressed with that approach because it wasn't like, hey, this is what we're talking about today. It's kind of like jazz or improv comedy. I mean, it's all being made up. And that's pretty cool. I like that sort of relationship with those I serve. And there's a give and take. So I think there's a lot of lessons there already in the first couple of minutes of our show.
Yeah, I want to talk about that just a little bit because as a leader, you do have to get in front of your staff and you present and you provide different pieces of information throughout the school year, and that could be a teaching piece or that could be a collaboration. And for you, I feel like every time I speak to you, you do give options. Even like the last episode me and you recorded, you gave me options on stories, and I get to choose as the host here to choose which one I wanted the listeners to hear from you. And obviously that's something that you are comfortable with now. I'm curious, when you were beginning your leadership, was that something that you always had within you, or was that something that you learned like, oh, you know what? I'm doing this as the leader, the only voice in the room. I'm dictating. I need to change my style.
I was experimenting with different styles since the early days. And I remember the first time I presented actually as an instructional coach, so kind of like a quasi administrator, and then I became an AP principal. And I don't even know who, it was probably on professional learning communities or understanding by design. Like these were things that we talked about and was important. But I remember literally blowing the socks off people, polka dot socks, like striped socks, like all sorts of different socks were flying around. It was something ridiculous, like a few hundred slides to get through in 20 minutes, right? And like people were just, oh my God, what's this guy doing? But part of the approach, you know, and I learned this from somebody I consider a mentor, Seth Godin. I've taken so many of his courses, right? Read all his books and that kind of thing. So he's mentored me through a far relationship. I don't know him. You know, he talks a lot about like presenting and slide design. You know, I'm here to tell you that most educators really suck at presenting. And it's just like the systems do this to us. They give you, here's all the compliance BS, and you have to do 100 slides and read everything that could just be sent in a memo, but it's compliance culture. So I want you to sit there and suffer with me as I read you this incredibly boring crap. And it's not inspiring or motivating, and it just needs to get done. And now the lawyers are happy. We're not going to get sued. But so I had all these slides, and it was just like, it was images, you know, it was metaphor, might be some quotes, using a lot of irony, right? So I'd be saying one thing, but the slide said something totally different, and tons and tons and tons of story, and just being myself. And everybody was just like blown away by the end, you know, in a very good way. So that wasn't necessarily options, but it was a different approach. And I've been playing with that forever now.
Well, Danny, your presentation, your masterclass with the Toddle School Leaders Bootcamp was building leadership momentum. And I kind of want to take what you were speaking on in that masterclass, but then also translate to a new project, a new book that you have out, which is Build Leadership Momentum. It's the same title. And I know there was a lot of things that, you know, were in the masterclass that are also in this text, and probably in the text more so it's built out. But, you know, the subtitle there is How to Create the Perfect Principal Entry Plan. And I would love to dive into that text and, you know, what you built there for aspiring and current leaders.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about the third book, and shout out to my co-authors. This is a joint production too with Ariel Curry, who's just an amazing writing partner, super, super amazing. And she was actually my editor, my bestseller mastermind over at Corwin that we did, you know, that told the story of how we serve school leaders in that process, the ABCs of powerful professional development. So anyways, I reached out and said, hey, got this idea and I'd like to write it with you. What do you think? And she said, yes. And so that's super cool. And yeah, the book's now all about creating your entry plan. So there's a process, you know, to it. And obviously we won't have time to dive in super deeply in a framework, but let me just give you the Cliff Notes version. And if people want to, you know, pick up the book or the audio book, there'll be trainings around it, all that kind of stuff. You could go as deep as you want to be. I'm also offering too, we can put this on the show notes if you want. It's totally up to you. I did a training on this just yesterday, and essentially the call to action or pitch or the invite, whatever you want to call it, I offered an optimize your entry plan 45-minute coaching call, right? So if you're a current school leader and you'd like a little space to be held for you, a pretty awesome coach, if I do say so myself, I'd love to, offer that. No, I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'd love to serve your audience in that way too. So I'll get you that link. So the framework has 5 parts. And there's a very common thread through all my work, whether it's creating your vision for your school, whether it's creating your ideal week, whether it's approaching your entry plan. I always put you, the leader, first. And that's because 2 reasons. 1, your system doesn't do that. They're really bad at taking into account your needs and helping you out. And they love to talk about work-life balance, and they're full of baloney is the nice way of saying it. They really don't. I remember my supervisor saying, listen, Danny, work-life balance is important, but you need to be here at 7 a.m., like 90 minutes before the students, right? And she knew that I hired a coach and that we were doing fitness stuff in the morning, right? Why do I got to be there 90 minutes? Just because the traditional model says first in, last out? That's stupid. So anyways, the system doesn't do it. And then the second reason I put you first, because you are worth it. As educators, we have big hearts. We are so good at serving others. And as a result, we actually take care of our own needs last. So all my work, whether it's like free stuff like a podcast like this or the trainings or, whatever, or paid offers like the mastermind, we are very pro principle and we take care of you. So you's always first in the framework, and I'll just run through the other four very fast. Then we talk about communication, academics, culture, and operations. And if you think of all those 5 parts in your entry plan and cover them all, right, in depth, like you're going to have a pretty solid start to the year. I would even assert you could have a stress-free start to the school year. John Unger, who's a principal down in Arkansas, he took part in this 5-day online challenge that I ran. It's called the Back to School Bootcamp. And basically over 5 or 6 days, I taught principals how to create their principal entry plan. And afterwards, he really rocked it. And I had an interview with him and I said, well, John, what was it like before and after? He said, before, listen, stressed out at night, all the things, juggling everything, just like the worry, concern, how am I going to get it all done? I implemented what you taught, Danny, this template, and all the stress was gone. Those are his words, not mine. So you can have a stress-free start to the school year. And that challenge then became the content for the book. So that's a framework. And just a real quick note on process. On process, you're really going to think of a few things. You're going to think before school starts. So that's setting the stage. We're in the summer. And for each part of this process, right? Communication, academics, culture, operations. Then we're going to think of first day of school, your first week, focus on relationships. I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care, right? We tell teachers, well, Ruckus Makers, the best kind of school leaders, tell teachers, build relationships with your students, right? Play it safe principles. They tell teachers, get into the content right away. That's a huge mistake, right? If kids don't know that the classroom teacher cares, they don't care what you're teaching. And so same thing as a school leader, focus on relationships week 1. Month 1, you really want to take it all in. So you're listening and observing. Month 2, you're really starting to cast vision and talk about your goals. And then in month 3, it's really about progress monitoring and planning for the next 90 days as well. So that's a quick overview of the 5 buckets in the framework, and then a note on the process.
I love it. This is so valuable. And I was thinking as I was reading through it and looking at the 90-day entry plan, especially that last chapter, I was thinking, man, I wish I had something like this when I was an administrator, because yes. I was so stressed. And especially as a new leader, I didn't know what I was doing. And, to be able to like sit down and have a framework to work through, I think I would have been so much more successful. I think the stress level would have gone way down, and at least it would have given me something to start with and progress through. And I love the idea of kind of chunking that 90 days as you're going through, and then, being able to reflect on what you did before, as you go through your leadership journey.
Isn't that nuts? Like, and that's what I try to do with Better Leaders, Better Schools, find those opportunities, high leverage tasks or projects or just opportunities that if we provide a solution, school leaders will really soar and benefit. How is it possible that, I don't know, well, you kind of just described your experience. My experience, I came with an entry plan because I'm the type, right, doing research, reading books and all this kind of stuff. But most systems, they don't train their principals on how to even do that, right? Or if you have one principal that just really does it well, like, here's the plan that worked for him or her, make it your own, but like, this is how you could start. Here's the keys. I was talking to somebody who just joined the mastermind last week, dropped into a system as an AP, principal gets COVID, convenient, right? And so now she's running the building as the AP. She's like, what? Right? Just new to the system and everything. She rocked it. She really did a great job, stepped up to the moment, which was so cool. And 3 weeks later, right, after the principal came back, promoted. You get your own campus, right? But here's how that went. You're awesome. You're now a principal. No choice really in the matter. Come to the board meeting. We're going to announce it. Thumbs up. Good luck. What? Where's the support? Like entry plan, support, mentorship, none of this stuff, you know? And when I did the second book, bestseller, Mastermind, that was a key statistic that I've memorized. Learning Policy Institute, in collaboration with NAESP, and a study of hundreds and hundreds of school leaders, found that only 23% of school leaders had access to a coach or mentor in the last 2 years. How are you going to get better? This is ridiculous. So that's coaching mentorship, but it's the same thing with entry plans. Nobody's teaching, and the start of the school year, like, kind of matters, I think, right?
Oh, for sure.
So,
well, and I was thinking too, like when I got promoted, it was so late in the summer, you know, and you get you get thrust into this position. Like for myself, I had a mentor, thankfully, to bounce stuff off. We didn't go through a 90-day plan.
So you're within the 23%.
Yeah. Right. And so I felt like I had some success. However, I still was drowning because you're learning a brand new campus or brand new system, trying to become a leader. What does that mean? And then you have the expectations of the people that you're serving on you, and you're having to sift through the needs of that campus. So it's overwhelming. But then to not have something like this where it's a framework, I love what you're building, and I always have found so many benefits from what you offer, Danny, because you get it. You understand that there's a lack of support for our leaders, and that's what Better Leaders, Better Schools is all about.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcasts. Now let's get back to the episode.
So for those who are listening that maybe this is the first time that they're hearing about what you offer, I know you have so many things to provide, not only your podcast, but you have books, you have the mastermind, and then I know you're going to be in my new neck of the woods in Denver soon.
Right. So yeah. I mean, the podcasts are free. So I would recommend, obviously this Aspire podcast is awesome. And if you have space to download a second, you should check out the Better Leaders, Better Schools show. And I'm proud of what I've created since 2015. The show ranks in the top 0.5% of all shows worldwide. That's nearly 3 million podcasts. So we've struck a chord, and people like the content that's there. We just try to provide results for our leaders. And School Leadership Series is a Monday through Friday, 5 minutes or less, second show that I have as well. So those are great free options. You get on the newsletter, that kind of thing. There's free trainings and downloads on the website, betterleadersbetterschools.com. If you find yourself, right, that you're either a novice or new principal, right, get the book, Building Leadership Momentum, How to Create a Perfect Principal Entry Plan. And even if you're a veteran and you're looking for a leadership edge, or you've never been taught, like, this is the season to be planning, for next year. And that's a very affordable option, right? It's like $10 for an ebook. You get the ebook in print for 15. I mean, do that. And you mentioned Denver. So there's a live event in Denver, July 14th through 16th. As of the time of this recording, there's 2 tickets left. So, act fast. That's betterleadersbetterschools.com/Denver 2023. And then, we have some leadership programs. The flagship one's called the Ruckus Maker Mastermind. And that's literally a weekly, right, experience where we dive into education leadership in depth, and just try to support school leaders, help them make some shifts. Maybe you need to move from being less reactive to more proactive. Maybe you battle, the imposter syndrome and could benefit from more confidence. Maybe your school is lacking energy, right? Like, people should be motivated and excited to be there. Like, schools are awesome places really to work. And too many campuses are kind of like, whoa, nothing's going on here. And, I'm thinking of one leader we support, Becky. Her school's been a top employer in her city for the last 3 years. Like, how do you do that? Well, by building a awesome culture, So there's all sorts of ways we help school leaders. Yeah. And you're welcome to check out any of those.
Yes, I highly recommend it. I've been a subscriber to your podcast for a very long time, and was inspiration for the Aspire to Lead podcast. So I also have been coached by you before, Danny. I can attest that you are phenomenal in that space. So for anyone that's listening that's looking for a wonderful community, looking for additional support, which is, like you said, so needed across this country, across the world, make sure that you're tapping into the Better Leaders, Better Schools with Danny Bauer. And yeah, I mean, this episode's coming out like today as we speak. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
I'm celebrating this 5 years and I want to push that out. Of course, the Toddle event happened in March. However, you can still get access. So click on the link in the show notes. Definitely connect with Danny Bauer. All of his links are also in the show notes, also on joshdiamond.com. If you haven't listened to any of the prior episodes with him, I guarantee you will gain a lot of wisdom from those episodes. So make sure
they're
you
all right.
Those out. They're all right. I can assure you they're more than all right. And sometimes, our conversations tend to like go off the rails. We've talked about soccer and bands and all kinds of stuff too in those conversations. So if you're looking for a little bit more information about Danny and all the wonderful things that not only he's doing, but is interested in, you can probably hear some banter about that too.
Definitely.
I appreciate you so much. And is there any last words you want to give to the aspiring leaders?
No, I would just say I didn't realize this is coming out today, which is awesome. So thank you, Joshua, for pushing that out so fast. Since you're listening to this and there's those 2 tickets left, like really highly consider, if you don't have a summer experience, definitely check out this Denver event. Not only, like, here's the guiding question. What would be possible on your campus if you were consistently operating as the best version of yourself? So that's what we're going to help you answer and figure out over 2.5 days. And it's an optional experience, but we're going whitewater rafting too, right? So there's other education conferences you could go to, but they're bigger. They lack depth. You're not going to do fun stuff like whitewater rafting. So this is only for 50 leaders. And like I said, there's 2 spots left. So I'd love to see some folks from the Aspire community there. That would be super cool.
That would be awesome. And I mean, you can't get any better than the mountains of Colorado. Let's be honest.
No, I mean, yeah, it's gorgeous. You will be inspired for sure.
100%. Not only by the amazing group, but then also by the phenomenal nature that's around. That's one of the main reasons we're moving there in less than 3 weeks, which I can't believe. As you can see behind me, Danny, no one else can see, but
I know, I was going to say, there's nothing on your
me.
shelves. Nothing. Yeah, it's barren. I thought you either were moving, which I knew, or you got robbed recently, and they're just not a Timberwolves fan. So
yes, my Lone Garnett jersey is behind me, just sitting there waiting to be packed. That's the last thing. Of course, my prized possession is the last thing I'll be putting in a box.
Which is your podcasting microphone.
Yes. I want to say I am honored to spend the 5-year anniversary with you, sir.
Yes.
Someone that I look up to, and you have been a huge inspiration in my own podcasting journey, and hopefully I can get to the level that you are at someday. You are doing amazing things, and I just appreciate you being on multiple times. I consider you a friend and someone that has guided me, and
Absolutely.
I just thank you so much, not only for today, but all of that you have done for the world of education.
You're at the level, right? There's no level to attain. Seriously, you're already there. Like, and this is a challenge to you and all the listeners, don't compare yourself to anybody else and what they've done. You've created something so important and meaningful in the industry of education. You're already there. That's all I want to say.